Well, first of all, thanks to all four of you for joining us today, and also to all our viewers and listeners who've logged in on this Thursday afternoon to listen to us talk about this amazing book, which is only amazing because of the magnificent contributors in it. So I must say, what a special day it is, and how honored and privileged I feel to be talking about this book for the first time, hosted by Pan Macmillan, our amazing publishers, and all the more so because I'm going to be discussing the book and the art in it with these four amazing trailblazers. So I'd like to first of all say that I'm the editor of this book, Period Matters. My name is Farah, Ahamed, and I will be joined by four women, Amna, Mawaz, Granaz, Baloch, and Lyla, FreeChild, all from different parts of the world. I'm in Lahore, and the others some of us are in different continents even, but I'm really glad that we've all managed to log in and be here today. So the format of this afternoon will be this way. I'll just lay it out so that for listeners, they're clear about how we're going to work this. I'm going to do a short introduction, and then I'm going to invite each of our panelists to speak for 5 minutes about their creativity and their journey to making their art, what inspired them, what moved them, and how they went about doing it. They'll each have a chance to speak for 5 minutes, and then I'll do another round of questions. So we'll have 3 rounds of questions, and then we'll open the floor to the audience. And I think we also have students joining in who are really excited to be part of this session. So who knows, there might be future artists in our audience as well. So let me first of all start by introducing our panelists. And the best thing I can do is just read their short introductions from my book. So I'll start with Granaz. Granaz Baloch is a PhD student researching water resource management, gender and violence, with a particular focus on the gendered aspects of household water management in the rural areas of Balochistan, Pakistan. Her aim is to elevate the voices of Baloch women who have been excluded from policy and planning around water scarcity. Her forthcoming book, A Glass of Water and Women, Stories from Balochistan, will give visibility to the hidden and untold aspects of women's and girls' lives around disability, violence, and denial of access to school and proper health facilities. Welcome, Granaz. I'll now tell you about Lyla FreeChild. She's a self-taught artist based in Jaipur, India. Her paintings and pottery work revolve around sexuality, pleasure, trauma, social taboos, and feminism. To celebrate the beauty of nudity and the sacred feminine power, she often uses her menstrual fluid in her artworks. Welcome, Lyla. Amna has joined us from Europe. Amna Mawaz Khan is a performance artist trained in Bharatanatyam, Kathak, and Uday Shankar dance styles. She is a political organizer aligned with the Pakistani socialist feminist movement. Welcome, Amna.
Thank you.
So I'd like to start by inviting Amna to tell us about the beautiful menstrual dance which she choreographed especially for Period Matters. Tell us about your journey to creating it, what moved you, what inspired you. I mean, it's the first time ever a book coming out of India has a QR code with a dance. So over to you, Amna.
Thanks for this. This is really special, and I'm really happy to be with all of you right now. I just remember when you had asked me about creating a piece for your amazing book, I was really excited but also scared because I knew that we had a time limit also, and I think for me, especially growing up in Pakistan, but growing up in the world also, I think just the taboos around menstruation, and also as a dancer, and having to embody my gender, my sexuality, where dance is in itself a taboo. I found that to be something that I would feel challenged by, because we're always in the classical realm. It's always kind of de-sexing and de-gendering and fitting towards stereotypes. And I think that when I thought of this dance, I thought, okay, maybe I should not add a very literal figure, a literal kind of blood aspect to the dance. But I think after even talking to you about it, I felt it's necessary, and especially to the feet, because the feet are the things that carry one forth with in dance and in life. I thought of the moon, of course, and especially because the moon, when I've been reading up a lot about the Zoroastrian mythology, and because I have some family also associated with Parsis and who were Parsi. And I'm just really intrigued by the fact that the goddess of menstruation, called Jahi, is also seen as a harlot and loose character and always seen as something negative. Yet she's so powerful that she had lots of interesting stories. So that's why I thought of the element of the moon, and I used these mudras of the moon, the different kinds of periods of the moon in the dance. And also I was wondering where exactly to do it, and I came up with doing it in a very strange space, because we don't really have many spaces to do dances like this. So this turned out to be in an office, and an all-male kind of environment. And while we were shooting it, it had its own dynamics. So everybody was a bit squeamish with the blood, and it wasn't even real blood, but still there was so much unease about it, right? And I found that to be very interesting. And the dance in itself, I kind of came up with the idea to do it on a 7-beat pattern, because it's kind of, in itself, for me, is very magical, and menstruation is also very magical. And so I thought it would be lovely to try and do an odd beat cycle to it. And the alap that is sung by a really, really beautiful singer called Tanya. And when we were talking about what to do it in and what kind of mood it would be, so she suggested, I think you, because Ragnek it evokes this kind of billowy clouds, like it has a lot of power to it, which I think this dance, I aimed to make it something, even if it was short, it had to strike and hit a chord somehow with its kind of, it's like a mysterious power that I was trying to manifest in this dance. So yeah.
And was there any particular reason why you chose to wear what you wore?
Interesting. Yeah. It is my mother's Bhopali Joda outfit. And of course, when a girl gets her period for the first time, if she's lucky to have her mother around, then she's either welcomed into the fold of womanhood or shamed. And unfortunately, I was shamed. And I think there was a lot happening for a while with my mother and me. And I think it all kind of culminated in this point of complete, like just a rejection that I got my period so early in my life. And somehow when I thought what to wear, I just came across this outfit, and she's not so well anymore. And of course things have changed, but I felt it's necessary to kind of wear what she wore maybe 40 years ago. And it's also very dark, Mukesh. So it's dark, but it shines also. And I thought that also symbolizes this whole idea of menstruation.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very interesting. I just want to ask you one last question before I move on to Lyla. Could you just explain the story behind the movements, the mudras that you use? Because you use certain gestures. So what were you trying to convey? And if you could just demonstrate just now here, if you could, if you don't mind, what gestures you use and what you were trying to show.
So in the beginning, there's like an offering. I use a ping pong ball, which is symbolizing the egg, but it's an offering first. So usually when one gives an offering to a deity, in the traditional canon, but here it was a releasing also of the egg. And then when the cramp comes, I was trying to figure out the way I experience my period. So when the cramp comes, I kind of become concave. Is that the word? When one becomes breaks, and then there's a part where
Yeah.
there's a shadow, and that was symbolizing patriarchy, and it was pushing me back. But what comes out is a straight pataka, which means flag. But here it was kind of just pushing back. And then it moves from a very straight hand to something that goes soft, but also strong. And signifying the moon, there's this, and there's this, and there's this. So there's three parts, stages of the moon that was signifying the menstrual cycle also. And yeah, that was that.
I mean, it's absolutely beautiful what you've done, and I urge all our listeners and viewers today to please log into YouTube. If you haven't bought the book, buy the book and get the QR code. But if you haven't, you can look for the video on YouTube and watch Amna's amazing dance, which is so inspiring, and it gave me goosebumps the first time I saw it. And just to let you know that she actually practiced it over 30 times unconsciously, which reflected her menstrual cycle as well. Oh, thanks, Amna. I'll move on to you, Lyla, and ask you to pick up on the goddess theme and the empowerment theme, which Amna has just raised. Could you tell us about your amazing art, which actually is a detail made onto the cover of our book? So this is a detail from the painting, which is actually behind Lyla right now. That is the original. So we're really lucky to be seeing it. Anyway, so over to you, Lyla, to tell us more about your process, your creativity, what came to you, and how you went about doing it.
Thank you, Farah. So this is actually of the print of the original painting, because I don't have the original painting right now. It's in New York, and
in New York
right now, the painting. And
amazing.
It's magical how universe just when the book was launched, and I was invited to participate in an exhibition, and they chose this painting to be exhibited there. So it was absolutely
congratulations.
So I remember when you had approached me to create menstrual art for this book, I have named this painting as Adya Shakti, or Primal Energy, and it was already in my mind for several months at that time. And around December 2019, there was just a lot of political and communal unrest in India, and there was just a lot of violence everywhere and anger, and the political party was trying to marginalize the already existing marginalized people and communities. So there was filled with a lot of rage around that period, and I was asking this question to myself that, that what is the solution? And everything is so integrated, how women are treated, how earth is treated, and the violence and pain and everything. And I was just trying to connect these dots and think, what can be? Is there an ultimate solution to all this suffering and violence, and violence which is seen as bloodshed violence, and the violence which we, especially women, go through, and the shame that we have to go through. So, and one night I remember, I had a dream, and the dream was of like these white, floating, blooming lotuses in a sea of blood. And that blood was born not from violence, but as a source of creation. And I was convinced that this is, maybe this is the answer. And then I started to read more and understand more, and the ancient beliefs of which talks about the magical qualities of period blood. and it was just amazing to unfold and get into the the rituals that so many indigenous cultures across the world have been doing for years, which sadly with patriarchy, which has we just don't know about it, and they have been distorted and twisted. So I felt that, okay, that this is my answer, and I have been painting with my menstrual fluid since 2014. Although I just started to share with the world a few years back because I was just doing it, in my bathroom, hiding it from everyone. And in my dream, I also had this golden figure of Lajja Gauri. And as Amna also shared, Lajja Gauri is a Hindu goddess with lotus head, and there are a lot of interpretations of it. And sometimes she is considered as a goddess who is giving birth, but she's not pregnant. And this pose is also a very sexual position, and she's a goddess of fertility and sexuality. So that image came to me, and then I could also see myself in it, so that's why you would also see a lot of elements of the kind of jewelry that I wear, and I have adorned the Lajja Gauri with that. So yeah, it started with that, and then as I started to understand more than the experience that I was having with my cycle every month, that how much power menstrual blood has to really create peace and regenerate the earth, and to reignite our connection with the earth, and which as I also remember quoting it in my essay, that I'm highly inspired by this book, Her Blood is Gold by Lara Owen, and where she has mentioned that this tribe, Koji Indians in Colombia, they really believe that the earth is born by the Great Mother during her periods, and the blood really went in the seeps of the ground and become the gold. And they also say that, the earth really needs this blood. That's why in a lot of ancient cultures, women would bleed freely into the earth. And they really believe that the reason for all this increased violence everywhere, and especially how women on earth are treated right now, is directly connected that the earth is not getting the blood that it should be getting, and that is our period blood. So yeah, all of these connected the dots, and then this painting came through me.
That's such an interesting journey from a dream to politics to how it connects with earth and rejuvenation. I'm curious to know how your own self-perception changed while creating this art. Did your subjectivity change? Were you affected by this art that you created?
Definitely. When I started, I just had a lot of rage, and because this lotus is also a political symbol in India. It's the logo of the right-wing political party here, and which also became a way for me to reclaim this powerful symbol, which is also a sign of enlightenment, fertility, and rebirth in so many cultures. And while I was doing it, I remember there was just extreme rage, and that transformed into anger, that I could transform it through my work, and just to see, it's always magical whenever I just pour my menstrual fluid on the canvas, and just for it to flow and take its own direction to make something. I don't make anything with it, it just happens. That is an extremely transformative experience, and from coming from a place of rage and anger, I remember I had extreme empathy towards the whole political unrest which has been happening, and I could just see that, you know, why they are doing what they are doing, and it will not change by, you know, this is the way forward. Women, as women, we need to reclaim this power that is hidden in our menstrual cycle. And I'm also like on my journey to really unfold the magic that our menstrual cycle holds. And so it was extremely powerful to make this. It took me months to make this piece, and it was a work in progress for a very long time. So my
Well,
definitely changed.
Yeah. I think this is a good place to segue into Granaz's experience, moving from Amna as a dancer and in performing art. And her art is actually highly political. And she'll explain that in the next round of questions, just like Lyla's is. And then moving into self-connection and how your own self-perception and subjectivity changes through the creation of your art, into Granaz's experience, which is more of a teacher and a facilitator, and she's an activist herself. So Granaz, you're based in Balochistan. Could you give us a background to your context? And also, you know, the chapter in the book is entitled Starting a Menstrual Revolution. So could you please explain how you conducted that workshop and how you used art there and what you found?
I think the most important thing was for me as an instructor or a teacher or facilitator to convince the students, especially the girls, to start talking about it, because in our areas, especially in our especially
no, I was just going to say, please give us a background context.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is something when I start working on menstruation. So especially the girls feel shy to talk about it, and they start talking about early marriages, and the next thing comes in about their pain, because menstruation always relate to pain, fear. These things are negative, I think, and they never try to think about the positive perspective of their body, because whenever they think about the positive perspective of body, so then they start talking about something which they experience. When I start working on menstruation, and I conducted a workshop for this book, so this time I didn't do, like, for example, awareness, for example, just slides and all this. This time I did something different. I just said to them that draw what you feel, draw or experiences in words like poetry, in short stories, but don't think about other people in this room. You are alone in this room, and you are sitting in a room like no one can see you and no one can hurt you. And then this experience changed their perspective, because when they start drawing, they draw something not similar to the like Lyla draw. They draw like a snake, a river full of blood with one boat, and such experiences for me is shocked, because they never say they never say such things like snake, river with blood. So I realized that I should talk so they can experience it better way. The girl who draw the boat in the blood of river. Because I have limited resources, limited people to discuss menstruation, because when I discuss menstruation, it seems like I'm discussing something negative, something impure, something dirt. So this is something, and the interesting thing, another perspective is that the working with girls, I realized that they never, or we never talk about our body reflection. We never talk about how our body reflect these days, and how it seems like, if someone asks me about PMS, I will say that this mood, blah blah. But when they draw in the form of art, there isn't they show in this mood or something. They just show pads with blood. They shown like snake. So it seems like they resemble their pain, their fear in different objects, like snake. Snake is dangerous. So they connect with these dots with something which is dangerous in real life. So this is something that in the form of art, especially for the menstruation, they think that menstruation also seems like a snake, but actually this is not looks like snake, but the society, the people, the tradition, conservative environment makes them to realize that this is similar to the snake. This is similar to like a river which is like full of blood, but one boat. It seems like they don't have any access to express their emotions, express their fear of pain. So this is something I try to motivate them, to push them, that they should think about something different perspective of menstruation, not the one which we heard from my grandmother, my mother. This is taboo, don't talk about it. Even you saw a spot, just came at home and feel anxious. This is something which makes me more bold and makes me more courageous to talk about it. But it requires a lot of energy, like Lyla said, months to organize such activities with young girls in a system where they never heard menstruation in their real life. They give nicknames to the menstruation because they cannot talk about it in the public spaces.
I want to ask you, what was the outcome of a group of young women making art together? I know you told them that they could, go into their own minds and pretend that they were alone. But was there any other outcome?
Yes, of course.
Because they were making this.
Yes, of course. Because after this workshop, we build a community where we a solidarity of a community, where we discuss about such a taboo word together. And the girls said that they tried this workshop in their hometowns where people never talk about it.
So there was a trickle-down effect, and also the girls sharing with each other built their solidarity.
Of course, because when I said that when I talk about jargon words like menstruation, tampons or something, they never understand it. When I talk about it in the form of art or whatever you have experiences, just draw it in a flow without thinking.
Amazing.
This is something they find a freedom in it, actually. This is freedom which I given to them. And this freedom gives them this opportunity to share it with others. If I didn't give this environment to them, they never implement it in their own communities.
I mean, what you're saying is giving me goosebumps, and this is so empowering to hear that, it's in such a difficult area like Balochistan, is so conservative.
Exactly.
So empowering young women to reflect on their own bodies
and also
to go and think.
Yeah, and I also want to share that in a society where women doesn't have washroom, so imagine that when they don't have washroom, but they are interested, young girls, to work on it, something which never heard, but they want. This want is very important.
Yeah, I mean, this is what you just shared is a flip on women's bodies, okay? What I'm trying to say is that the personal is so entwined with the political, and women's bodies are always the site of struggle, of violence. But you have just changed the conversation by giving women agency, at least over how they draw themselves, how they paint themselves, the poetry that they write. Which takes me to the next series of questions, which is around, and Amna, I'll ask you first, is period art or menstrual art political? Does it have to be, is it art for art's sake? And does art have to have a purpose? I mean, you've been a practicing dancer for many years now.
I think...
and you're also... Yeah,
sorry.
Please. No, please.
I was just saying that I think art for art's sake is impossible because we live in a society, and whether or not we don't, even if it's, like you said, the personal and political are so intrinsically linked that it's impossible to just say, oh, I'm just letting out what's inside me. But what is inside us is linked to what is outside us also. And I think period art inherently is political because periods are such a contested topic. I think the fact that someone is bleeding for days without dying is a resistance, is a symbol of resistance. Somehow, I think it is a taboo topic also, and then blood inherently. So I think when we're talking, like Lyla was talking about, blood not being something that is violent, but something that is creation. It's a symbol of creation. It's a symbol of life and magic. I think it's so necessary if we're going to try and connect all these different movements to try and bring them together with the personal, the political, the outside, things that are non-human and things that are human. So somehow I feel like menstruation connects so many things without us even being cognitive about it or conscious about it. That, like Granaz was saying, there's women who don't have bathrooms, and especially after the floods, for example, the floods in Pakistan. There's a group called Mahwari Justice, and they've been working to provide sanitary pads and underwear and all these things to women who are affected by the flood, because of course, firstly, nobody as such was wearing pads except for people who had access to that kind of capital. And I think that what would happen is essentially women use cloth, and when you're without a house, without any shelter, you have to keep that cloth in the whole day, and then risk of being unsafe, and the amount of sexual violence that has come out after the floods. So I think, I mean, I can't even imagine because of the privilege I'm in, but periods in itself are I guess they're emblematic of what is going on also for women who are suffering right now. And I think that's why this kind of art is so necessary, because it's talking about things that are usually not mentioned because it's so linked to honor and so linked to what a woman stands for. And it's so strange because in our societies, a woman who gives birth to a male child is seen as the ideal woman, but without periods, how will she give birth? And this is what we've talked about many times. But I think period art is that one thing that pushes that back, pushes the rhetoric back, and claims that space.
Yeah. It's really interesting that our book is the first one to actually include art. I mean, what you say is absolutely true. It can't separate art and menstruation and the political, but yet our book is the first one to actually embrace that aspect of it. I'm sure all of you know that the women in Iran are actually using menstrual blood to paint on the walls on the streets, and showing us to show their active resistance and also their solidarity with other women around the world. So menstrual blood connects all of us in that way too. wanted to ask you one more question, Amna, which is a point that you and I had talked about some time ago, that women who are participating in demonstrations and protests, the kind of challenges they have when they have their periods. Now, this is something that nobody ever talks about. I'd really love it if you shared your experience.
Yeah, I think that's something that's so inherently the thing that links women to not being able to get out often is just a lack of access to public toilets. I remember this earlier this year when we were organizing the Aurat Azadi Jalsa. This year we didn't do it outside. We had it in a public park and there was access to bathrooms. And I mean, I would say because a lot of the women there later on were saying this is so good that we could come and thank God we had a place where we could feed. And of course, public bathrooms are also used as a place where women can feed their children or give milk and stuff. And also, of course, for the older women who need to go to the bathroom. But also so many girls got their period that day. And if it was a jalsa outside on a road, it would be totally disastrous and many women would have to leave. But I think this in itself, like trying to find ways of organizing and mobilizing women in places where they can have access to toilets, to hygiene products and stuff. I think that's so necessary when we're thinking about feminist politics.
Yeah. I mean, until you raised it, it hadn't even crossed my mind that one way of keeping women's participation out of political spaces is not to have toilets, not to make it easy for them to participate, not to have facilities that will empower them. And it just installing toilets will change things and make it inclusive. Something that, you know, it hadn't even occurred to me until you raised it. I'm so glad you drew my attention to it. I mean, I've learned so much through the coming together of this book. I can't even explain, because I think all of you have had such enriching experiences in that conversation publicly. Lyla, I'd like to take it over to you now. And I mean, some of the reviews on the cover have ranged from "Thanks for the trigger alert, I won't be picking up this book. Eek, it's made of period blood," to "Oh my God, that's amazing, it's never been done before." So you mentioned in the earlier round about how your own imaginings and your own inclinations were very political. Could you say a little bit more about that? And also I'd like you to comment on one other piece of art which is in the book, which is Anish Kapoor's art. And of course he's a male artist and he was depicting menstruation from a male point of view. It's the male gaze on the female body, as opposed to you, which you had your own gaze on your body. And Anish Kapoor was accused of appropriating women's bodies for his art. So that in itself is debatable, but maybe you can comment on that aspect of the female and male gaze and the politics around that.
Yeah, I very much resonate with what Amna also said, that I mean, everything is political, you know, like personal is political in so many ways. And it's so sad that we forget that without menstrual cycle, without female's menstrual cycle, there would be no human life on this earth, you know. And something which is special to the female is denigrated and looked down upon, and something which is special to male is just like is celebrated. And which was not the case as I was doing my research and learning in so many cultures, even including in India. Menstruation was looked with a lot of respect, and women were treated like goddesses, you know. And all these things, that you can't go to temple, or you can't touch this, or you can't eat pickle and everything. There are so many interesting like, not stories, but they were facts that why these things were created, because women were seen as goddesses, you know. And there were tribes which they would, you know, if I'm menstruating and if I say, "Oh, I want you to pick me on your shoulder and take me there," and men would just do it really happily, and it was seen as, you know, as a sign of their men's spiritual awakening. And in a lot of traditions, they would, even in India, in Bauls who are in Kolkata and West Bengal, they would drink menstrual fluid, you know, to gain spiritual powers. And so it was not that it was never looked down upon, it was celebrated. And in so many cultures, menarche is celebrated, you know, when they when women start to bleed. And so, yeah, when I hear and when I read about all of these things, it's just so sad where something which is such a great symbol of power has been distorted and become a symbol of shame. And my journey into reclaiming that also started when I started to really see my own blood from a different perspective. And so when I first started to use moon cups, that's when my relationship with my body and my periods changed. Before that, I used to hate it, and I would be like, I want to get rid of my uterus. And I had all those, and I was horribly shamed when I got my periods. So I used to hate it to the core. From that to like now, when I look forward to my menstrual cycle each month, it just changed when I saw this cup of blood in my hand, and I was like, this is a symbol of life, you know. This is not an ordinary blood from my veins. It's that's why it's also called, like, you know, they say that there's magical power, mana, in Sanskrit, which is there in menstrual fluid, and I just couldn't throw it. And that's when my experiments with painting with menstruation, with period blood started. I just threw it on my canvas just to see what would happen. and for years I would do it in my mom's bathroom so she doesn't get scandalized. So, and it's very interesting to hear people's experiences, even though it's a book, it's a print, it's not even real blood, you know.
Yes. I just want to interrupt to say, one reviewer actually wrote to say it's a positive review. So if anybody talks to you about the shame and stigma around menstruation, throw the book at them. Literally.
Certainly. And yeah, but it's always, I'm always curious, you know, if somebody is also feeling disgust and is, you know, is pissed seeing or knowing about it when I say that, you know, I paint with my period. Well, it's always interesting to just ignite that conversation. And to quickly...
Can you comment on Anish Kapoor's art, please? Sorry.
When I first saw it in the book, and I didn't even see, okay, it is by Anish Kapoor. I was just very excited to see the book and see all, you know, what all is there inside it. And I was like, this person doesn't know how period, you know, how blood flows through a vagina. Like, it's not a gush of waterfall. And of course, there are a lot of elements which I really liked, but I remember I was showing it to my partner, and he actually commented, and he said, is it a male who made this? And I was like, how did you know? And like, it certainly doesn't look like, you know, it's coming from a woman, because he also sees my art and how I practice it. So I was quite amazed that, you know, a man could just see that, oh, is it from a man, you know? And so, yeah, I certainly feel that there is a lot of different, not just Anish Kapoor's work, so many other male artists and other men that I have seen that, you know, they certainly, I think, are not intrigued maybe to see the nature of maybe menstrual fluid, and are also intrigued to know that, you know, what it feels like when we are menstruating. So.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to use their imaginations a bit more, and maybe show a bit more compassion as well. Thank you, Lyla. I'll move to Granaz now. Granaz, you know, they say that education is the most political act of all. So what you were doing in that menstrual workshop was actually very radical. So would you like to comment on how you feel your politics, or if you thought how your politics affected what you were doing with those young women. Would you like to comment on that, please? How you view the art that was created there? Is it political?
I think,
or was it neutral? Although, go on. Anyway,
I think Arundhati Roy said a good quotation that politics is everywhere, even in home, in our body, everywhere. So, if I talk about in education perspective, yes, of course, because without giving them this opportunity to talk about art, I think I couldn't give the access to them to think about their own life and the other women in Balochistan. For example, if even I asked to them that, can you please tell me about disabled women in our areas? How they feel about their periods and how they do their periods. What is the process? Even they shocked, and they said that they never thought about it. That because the women in, especially the disabled women, are closed in a room whole month, 4 days, or for whole month, because they cannot do their changing their pads or other things, and especially the rural areas, they don't have access to the sanitary pads. They are dependent on the clothes. And the second thing, when I asked about the LGBT community, and even I didn't get the answer, because they said they never thought about it, and nobody talked to them about them. So I think this education gives them to think about, to open their minds and think about out of the box things which we never discuss in our personal life, in our professional life, even in public domain or in a private domain. So I think this work is politicized as well. If I say that I'm changing mindset of human to think about their own body and the others one, to know about their rights, not just think about but others one, like LGBT community, disabled. So this is something I think I'm not evolving them, but I think this is a revolution to give them the opportunity to work their own communities, but don't forget about these very important communities like LGBT and the disabled.
Yeah, you raise a very important point, because a lot of the mainstream discussions around menstruation are not inclusive.
Yes.
People with disability, trans people, homeless women, women who are menstruators who are incarcerated, people with disabilities, all of these are often missing from mainstream discussions on menstruation. And so you raised an important point about making sure that the diversity of all parts of societal development, it's not who gets ahead and the rest that are left behind. I just wanted to ask you, Granaz, the work that you do is radical. You're different from other people in the area where you live. You're brave. You're not afraid to take risks. You yourself are constantly thinking outside the box. What does it take to be a person like you? There might be others in the audience. There might be younger people who might be saying, what does it take to be women like the three of you, women who are not afraid of asking for, demanding rights, women who are pressuring for change, pushing for change, who are making menstrual art. Could you share some insights into what does it take to be like someone like you, someone who's not afraid?
This is a really difficult question, Farah. I ask myself a lot of time, because people ask me about it, that please tell us. But I think this is related to young girls and my community, because I live in a small village. I don't live in city. So the girls talk to me, they share experiences. these small stories, when I heard them, even especially I talk about early marriages. This is common. So when I listen these stories, it remind me that if I didn't work on these issues, or I didn't become brave, who will change this story in history? Like, for example, I inspired by my mother. She is very intelligent, very, very intelligent, very smart. But this patriarchy, this system, give her this opportunity to live in this room. She never been to outside. She is more smarter than me because she got married early age. So this is something which daily basis motivate me. When she asked me, what is going on? What are you talking? But she couldn't understand a single word. But she wants to learn. She wants to do something, but she couldn't do it because the patriarchy makes her to stay at home. This is something. And the last is that if I'm not an extrovert person, I never been like this. That's why I'm extrovert. I'm a storyteller. I connect with people. I share with people. That's why I'm become more strong and bold. But without allies, without communities, I never feel this boldness. Like someone here asked a question that how did you ladies collaborate? Even this is something which, that's why we are here. We are alive. We are communities. That's why we are talking to each other. Even I didn't meet Farah in my life. This is something which bonds us, make us to be together, to a stronghold of this relationship.
Absolutely. And I remember so clearly how you were going through your essay through all those months of COVID, back and forth, editing your essay. And sometimes you had no access to internet. Sometimes I wouldn't hear from you for weeks. You were in your village. I had no way of contacting you. Somehow we managed. Yeah. It's really a credit to you. So, and it's true, we've never met, but we have such a good bond between us. I'm so grateful to it. Now, would you like to say a few words about your own personal trajectory to becoming the woman that you are? The dancer, the activist, the translator, the writer.
I don't know. I wish I knew, but I have a feeling I know. I think it starts with catching an opportunity. Some people get opportunities because of privilege. Some people get opportunities because of just how much they want it, and they're just magical timing and alignment in time and space. I think that a lot of things in my life happened because of, let's say, me wanting them, of course, but also me happening to be there. So to do with privilege. And I think that that's something I'm always grappling with, because I don't think anybody who calls themselves let's say, a rebel wants to be born in privilege. And often it happens, right? And somehow I think it's a constant back and forth. It's like a tidal wave. So it's constantly ebbs and flows. And the dance element, I just got so inspired by my teacher. I don't claim to be a great dancer, and I just believe in the power of physical movement. I believe that everywhere is dance, like everywhere is politics. So I think to connect these two was just very easy because they are connected, movement in itself. But I think that after training, and then I think also when I got in touch with, like Granaz talks about, community. I think that I was very, very lucky to find a community in Islamabad who are politically active, who are organizers. I think I learned everything I know about politics in many ways on the outside, how to organize from them. And I think that was just a very special moment in my life for me. And yes, it's been a long time and many people are not connected in that way anymore, but somehow this drive to change this disgusting system, it connects people across the country, across the world. I think there's it's so powerful, this desire to change for the better and to kind of connect and go back, maybe not go forward, but go back in time and try and find those connections with the earth, with ourselves, among women, among beings. I think that just there's this crazy desire in my mind I'm always trying to find connections. And I think that's what keeps inspired. People say they're inspired from me because of this, that I am able to connect people together. So I don't know if that answered the question.
That makes total sense, and that's so visual, because I've seen you dance in open public spaces. It's so powerful to see how viewers react to dance and to movement and to music. I remember the first time that I saw you, and I stayed with you forever. I think it's a good place for me to move into the next question to you, Lyla. Do you think anyone can be a menstrual artist? Or is it just does it just take people like you and Amna and Granaz? Like, can anyone do this?
I think absolutely, and I think irrespective of the gender, it is so powerful as I'm learning more that the powers which lies in our in the period blood. I don't even like to use the word period so much because again it also has patriarchal roots, and it was always addressed as moon time, in so many cultures. So, but to really harness that power and as Amna also said, to like really going back, because as I'm tracing and I'm learning so much about so many tribes and indigenous culture would be practicing these rituals of honoring menstruation, because it is a symbol of life, and we are born because it is there, and that really is the solution. That's what they say, to create the balance that we have lost, whether it is patriarchy, whether it is how women are treated, or how our bodies are treated, or how climate is changing, or how our earth is bleeding. I keep coming back to harnessing the power that lies in menstruation and how we can reclaim it. So I think yes, and I feel all of everyone should and must be a period artist in their own ways, because and not just an artist because they would want to express, but it just becomes a natural thing that once you start learning about it and you start to see and connect those dots, then that expression can be a choice or may not be a choice, but to really see that and be open to it, I think is really essential.
Yeah, that was so eloquently said. Wow, very powerful. Granaz, do you think that as a period artist you face challenges? Would you like to share the challenges you face as a period artist?
I think if I say that in public that I inspired the girls to draw your periods experiences or share it, they are fair. So maybe someone will say to me that this is not the right place. You should go home and talk to them. Because in Balochistan, if I see, there is no woman artist as much. Nowadays, women artists are moving forward. Like we are inborn artists. That is true that we have singers, poets. They never been to schools of music or literature. Even they are illiterate. But the problem is that they never accept a woman to show their art, their own personal journey of body to the public. This is something which I never feel that I'm sick, I'm safe, or other women safe to show this to the, especially my area or other Pakistan area, as Amna knows very well, and you. But I think this is very important to, like Lyla said, anyone can think about and experience it. I'm also motivate others, those my students and everyone is listening, that we should think about it, because if we give exposure to our body towards art, I think it will help us to heal gradually, rather than force our body that this is painful, this is trauma. So with exposure, we can give our body to feel it with colors, with words, with stories. This is something.
Yeah. That was so beautifully said. I mean, we've covered so much ground. We've talked about menstrual art as a tool for information gathering, for educating, for healing, for solidarity, self-connection, for empowerment, for transformation, for expression. I mean, I could go on. It's been such a terrific conversation and exchange between the three of you. I would like to ask the audience if they have any questions, but I don't know how to do that. So let me just give me a second. Is there any? I don't know if there's a chat here or how I'm supposed to see this. How do I know if there is?
I think, Farah, you should answer this question in detail. We should all answer this. Like, how did you ladies come to collaborate? This is very important, because someone is also anxious to connect with someone like us, but don't have courage or connection.
Well, I can say that when I visualized the book, I knew that it needed to have art in it. And I knew that it needed to have a range of perspectives. It needed to have artists, it needed to have activists, it needed to have entrepreneurs, academics. And I wanted each person to tell their story in their own way. So when I gave a brief, I said, I'd like to hear about this experience. Would you like to paint or draw or write a poem, or would you like me to interview you? So what the result was, a diversity of genre and a diversity in the ways of the stories were being told. Insofar as collaborating, I mean, I put a call out, Granaz, and you responded to that call. So, and I spoke to you on the phone, and I felt we need a connection. Lyla, I found her name in a newspaper article, which was actually sent to me by Anish Kapoor Studios. So they alerted me to Lyla, and I reached out to her on Instagram. And we had a chat on the phone, and I was so surprised to hear that she had actually started harvesting her menstrual blood. And at that point, she hadn't painted. She was still thinking about it. She said to me, I have a dream, I have to think about it. I'll need 6 or 7 months. I was so excited that I said, you take your time, and then, we just kept talking and exchanging ideas and so on. And with Amna, she was actually one of the last people to join the book. It hadn't actually occurred to me that we could have a dance. And we were speaking on the phone about other things. And then one night it came to me, why not a dance? Why not a menstrual dance? Like, we have 8 types of mediums of art in the book. We've got acrylics, we've got photographs, we've got wall murals, we've got 4 participants using colors, Granaz. But then I thought, why not a menstrual dance? So I phoned her up really excited, and I said, do you think you could interpret your menstrual cycle through a dance? And she said, I can think about it. I've never done that before. And then she said to me, I'm thinking about the Mohenjo-daro dancing code. It's an ancient thing to dance. And then she came back and she said, I think we can even actually choreograph some specific steps. We can talk about Char Divar, we can talk about blood on the dance floor, we can talk about the beat, the rag. So it was so exciting to witness this type of creativity, because it was, I mean, I had the privilege of actually witnessing a creator in Lyla's case and in Amna's case and in your case, because you were actually initiating something totally new, and I was just a bystander. And in a way, for people to share their menstrual experiences with a total stranger, which I am to all of you, it was a very humbling experience for me, because it's something so personal, and yet you were ready to share it with me and with the book. You know, when you're privy to such an intimate act of creation about a very intimate thing that's related to your body, you feel a different type of connection with the people that you're working with. My greatest pleasure to be able to witness that, especially with the three of you. So I think it's just been my great privilege, and I'm so grateful. I can't even express what joy it's been bringing this book together and meeting amazing women like you. So I think it's just been my really good fortune to be able to collaborate for this book.
I think we need to interview Farah.
I think we have to.
I think
Sorry?
we need in the next part, we need to interview you for you to tell us your experiences, you know.
Yeah, the autobiography of each chapter, how I met each of you, and your personal journeys and anxieties, and yeah. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Now, how do I find out if there's a question from the audience?
I think if you scroll up screen, you'll
Yes.
see where and then you'll see some comments and
Okay. Okay, I don't see any questions. I see waves, lots of waves.
I see a brilliant comment, Farah. You really liked it. Periods beyond border.
Oh, brilliant, exactly. Brilliant.
The guy said, look forward
Okay,
to
so-
see collaboration artwork on menstruation across India, Pakistan, periods beyond border.
Brilliant idea. I mean, it would be amazing if we could have a studio with all this art displayed, and then Amna doing her dance. Can you imagine? It would be so totally empowering.
Yeah.
But I think we might have to end now, because we've been speaking for an hour, and I think it's late for some of us. Amna, I know it's particularly late for you, or is it early? I'm not sure. But I'd like to invite each of you to give some concluding remarks. Who would like to start before I put somebody on the spot? Amna, would you like to leave us with any last messages or anything that you feel you would like to say? Or should I start with somebody? Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. I talked about the floods earlier. Again, whoever is watching, I love to follow Mahabari Justice. It's run by an amazing young girl called Bushra Manur, who's and had to face a lot of even familial pressure, but societal pressure also for talking about periods. And I think at a point where tens of thousands of women are in extreme conditions where there's like no dignified menstruation. That, and then also just linking back to the creative process and menstruation, I find that it's always very, very nice to stop and pause and think why we are doing something. So often in my life as a dancer and choreographer in Pakistan, I'd have to just quickly produce, do, just jump on to because life is so precarious as an artist. But right now I have this time, and I think it's very, very important for whoever is in a creative process to just pause and stop and think about things that, for example, with menstruation, how we have some ideas about it, to kind of keep questioning those ideas. That's all.
Yeah, that's so true. We don't take enough time to stop and reflect about why and what next and how our ideas are changing and should change. Yeah. Thank you for the shout out.
Thank you
for
for
the victims of the floods. Definitely we need to support them, and today is an important day to recognize the importance of providing every woman with the opportunity to have a dignified menstruation experience, which is free of shame and stigma, and also has where they have easy access to a choice of menstrual products. Definitely keeping in mind the environmental impact of pads while we do that. Lyla, would you like to make any parting remarks?
I think just really the title of the book, that period matters to every one of us, irrespective of your gender, and we should really question it, and as Amna said, like really pause and think about it. And I often get these remarks like, oh, it's a women's this thing and all of this thing, and it's like, but you're a half woman, like we're all born from this body. So, and we exist because this exists. So it is very, very important to really start questioning, that why things are the way they are, and what is our perception towards it.
Absolutely. Granaz, any final remarks, any parting words of wisdom, inspiration?
I think I will say that there should be women-centered art education. Their women should be centered, not only because art world is always captured by men, but there should be a women-centered art education and art-related activities, not limited to the men. And I just want to say that I'm a climate activist. I request to everyone, don't throw sanitary pads, please. It took them 500 to 8 years to just get away from art. Please, if you can use cotton reusable pads or something which is reusable and environment friendly. And in Pakistan, we have a lot of good brands and run by women, especially in Lahore, in Karachi. If you please reach out to them and use them, because we are already in a situation like we face this flood. The flood is not for only men, but it affects vulnerable women and young children, especially young girls, because there is no space for them to change these pads, because there is no home for them. So please take care of this. Thank you.
You raised an excellent point about environmental impact, which we haven't talked about today. That's absolutely spot on. And also the very important point also that the art world is dominated by men, and we do need to create safe spaces for women's art. I think that's a really good point to finish the discussion. My thanks to all of you, and to say how pleased I am and how grateful I am and how happy I am today that we were able to have this discussion. Also my thanks to Pan Macmillan India, especially Tista and Saburi and Diksha, who helped to facilitate today's conversation and also to put together the book. And to all our listeners, thanks a lot for spending the hour and a bit listening to us, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.